How you doing? This is Coach DeCarlo. Today we're going to be talking about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now, how did this subject come up? Somebody recently inquired about a post that Mr. Lindo and I did, and also was inquiring about the works of Neville. And he says, why is it that Mr. Lindo and Neville seem to use scripture and they seem to swear by scripture? And I told them, for them, scripture has become a way of life. They've lived it and proved it true. But I also told them, no matter what your belief system, you can apply the works of metaphysics to any belief system. And Neville proved this time and time again. He did a talk on the Count of Monte Cristo. He also talked about Alice and the Looking Glass. He talked about personal examples as well as public examples and how these stories had metaphorical applications. So we're going to do that today. We're going to take Goldilocks and the Three Bears and apply it to the metaphysical litmus test and let you see how Goldilocks and the Three Bears applies to you today from a spiritual aspect. So let me start by telling the story. There was a little girl by the name of Goldilocks. While Goldilocks was walking through the forest, she noticed a home in the midst of the forest, and she was excited because she was very hungry. So she knocks on the door and nobody answers, but she notices that the door is open. So she opens the door and she walks in. When she gets inside, she notices that there's three bowls of porridge or food. And so she tastes the first bowl of porridge and she says, "This is far too hot." And so she went to the next bowl of porridge and she says, "This one's way too cold." And so then lastly, she went to the last bowl of porridge and she said, "This one is just right." And she ate it all up. So now she's a little tired because she's got some food in her stomach and she noticed that there's three recliners. And she sits on the first recliner. She says, "This one's far too big." And then she sits on the second one. She says, "This one's far too uncomfortable." And so then she sits on the third one. She says, "But this one is just right." But haphazardly, she leaned back too far and she broke the recliner. She says, "Okay, all this is wearing me out. I'm tired. And so I need to find some place to just kind of relax for a moment." She goes upstairs and she notices that there's three beds. The first bed, she says, "This is far too large." And so she went to the second and she was just seemingly swallowed up by the second bed. She said, "This one just won't do." She got into the third bed and found that that one was just right and she fell fast asleep. Sometime later, the three bears come home and they noticed that the door was open. And they said, "This is strange, but let's see what's going on." And they walk inside the home and they notice that first and foremost, somebody had been eating their food. So Papa Bear said, "Somebody's been eating my porridge." Mama Bear says, "Somebody's been eating my porridge." Baby Bear says, "Somebody's been eating my porridge and it's all gone." They continue to move through the house to see if the culprit was possibly still there. And they noticed that the recliners had been adjusted. And Papa Bear said, "Somebody's been sitting in my recliner." Mama Bear says, "Somebody's been sitting in my recliner." Baby Bear says, "Somebody's been sitting in my recliner and they broke it." And as they move throughout the house, they get upstairs. And Papa Bear, to his dismay, says, "Somebody's been sleeping in my bed." And Mama Bear says, "Somebody's been sleeping in my bed." Baby Bear says, "Somebody's been sleeping in my bed and they're still there." The bears surround the bed, and to Goldilocks' dismay, she sees that she's surrounded by three bears. And she makes a quick haste and runs out of the house to never be seen again. Now, many of you say, "Well, Coach, what does this have to do with manifestation?" Now, we're going to cover that right now. Scripture says this: "Blessed is the man, the woman." When we say man, that's generic male, female, made he, them. Scripture says, "Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scoffer. Now, what we notice about Goldilocks, Goldilocks was walking through the woods. And what we're told that blessed is the person that as they're walking through life, when we're talking about walking, we're talking about a lifestyle. It says that they're not bound by the counsel of the ungodly. Now, what does that mean? Many people will hear you talk about these principles and they'll say, man, that stuff just doesn't work. God's not real. That's ungodly counsel. When you know that you've used these principles and they've worked for you, anything that's contrary to that is going to lead you off the path of what you know to be true. So that will be considered for you ungodly counsel. Now, this is not being religious when we talk about ungodly. I like to say that God is the good that one desires. If somebody's speaking into your life and they're redirecting you from the good that you desire, that's ungodly counsel for you. We call that missing the mark or sin. Like I said, it's simply taking you off course or off your desired end pathway. It says, but nor do this individual stand in the way of sinners. So again, we just mentioned sin. And when we're talking about sin, sinners are those who are living a life contrary to the life that they desire to live. They're living in lack when they say they want abundance. They're living in ill health when they say that they want great health. They're operating in poor relationships when they say that they're seeking a loving relationship. Anytime you're off course of your desired end, we call that sinning. You're missing the mark of your life. When we're talking about standing in the way of sinners, standing speaks to your attitude. What is your stance? What is your belief system about whatever it is that you're trying to obtain, do, be, and have in life? See, if your attitude is not taking you to your latitude and you're not being taken up because of your attitude, then you're standing in the way of a sinner. It says, but nor does this individual sit in the seat of the scornful. Now, when we're talking about the scornful, this is the person who says, listen, that stuff sounds like a bunch of crock. Or say that you're talking about manifesting more money, better health, a loving relationship, and they begin to speak to you contrary. Matter of fact, almost laughing at you, saying, who do you think that you are that you can manifest such a lifestyle? That's the scornful. It says, we don't stay in that place. And if we come across people who are in that mindset, we move on mentally. I was talking to somebody recently and they said, well, listen, coach, I have people in my life that are responsible for different aspects of my life. So these people are part of my life. I can't just not be a part of them. I can't not interact with them. I said, listen, when they begin speaking things that that are contrary to what it is that you're seeking to manifest, be like the person that Neville talked about when they were talking about the illness of this little girl. His wife had brought him a report. And what he started doing was, as his wife was giving him the negative report, he was seeing in his mind's eye a positive report. So he revised, even as she was speaking, what it was that she was saying. He was thinking the contrary or the opposite. When somebody is speaking something that that's contrary to what it is to be true, do like they do on Charlie Brown when they emulate the teacher and just kind of hear it womp, 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 womp. Let them speak and acknowledge that they're speaking, but let it go in one ear and out of the other. Do not find yourself bonding with what it is that this person has said. We got Goldilocks. She's walking through the house, and first and foremost, she's hungry. When we're talking about hunger, this is substance. What is it that we're giving our attention to? See, we're giving our attention to something morning, noon, and night. Often the substance, the spiritual insights that we're taking on are being fed to us by way of media. We're watching TV, we're on the internet, we're on our smart devices, and we're being bombarded by negativity. What is it that you're allowing into your mind's gate morning, noon, and night? That's your substance. Jesus says that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Again, I like to say that God is that good that one desires. If what you're feeding on mentally is not leading you where you want to go, then you need to disband it and begin to pour into yourself something that's more comparable to what it is that you're seeking to manifest. The second thing that Goldilocks did was she went and she found a place to recline. Now, when we're talking about reclining, this is when we're at a relaxed state and our mind is open. Our mind gate, our eye gate, our ear gates, they're open to all the things that are going on around us when we're at a relaxed state. Matter of fact, when we're watching television or when we're watching some type of movie, advertisers know that this is a peak time to get your attention. When you're watching video, you will notice that in the peak of what it is that you're watching, a commercial may pop up. Advertisers know that that's the prime time to get you because they're bypassing your conscious mind and going directly towards your subconscious mind. When you're in a relaxed state, a state akin to sleep, what is it that you're giving your attention to, creator? So Goldilocks found herself in the chair. And of course, because she got so relaxed, she reclined it too far back and the chair broke. Later, she started to move through the house. She located the bedroom. And in the bedroom, she found 3 beds. She found one bed was so comfortable that she began to recline and fell asleep. The next thing she knows is she's surrounded by 3 bears. What you'll notice with Goldilocks' story is that at each time, the one person that seemingly fit her was the child. Now, when we're talking about Goldilocks, this is a crown of gold. We're all children of the Most High God. But we, like the prodigal son, we've forgotten our identity. And Father says, son, daughter, know you not that all that I have is yours? We need only to acclaim it in our imagination. So we're walking in a place of royalty when we're talking about Goldilocks. The other thing we need to realize about Goldilocks is that this is your child. I like to say that every man is Mary awaiting Christ to conceive. Now you say, well, Coach, what does that mean? When you begin to imagine a thought, Joseph Murphy would often say that that's your salvation. Whatever it is that you want, Goldilocks sought shelter. She found a house. She sought food. She found porridge. She sought comfort. She found a recliner. She sought sleep, and she found a bed. This is her salvation. What we notice is that we have 3 bears. 3 is the number of Trinity, Father, Son, and Spirit. When we're talking about the 3 bears, bear stands for that protective spirit, that mother-cub relationship. Father says that he will send us a comforter. So in the bears, we find that we have the father bear, the mother bear, symbolic of spirit, and baby bear, symbolic of Christ. But you'll notice that Goldilocks continued to align herself with the Christ bear. What we will notice in the metaphor is that Goldilocks and the Christ bear are really one and the same. It took her to go into a deep sleep to discover her Christ identity. Now, in the story, she was startled by the bears, but the bears are also symbolic of the 3 witnesses. It says that when Jesus began to pray in the garden, he had 3 witnesses in the garden, Peter, James, and John. We call them faith, love, and hope. So when Goldilocks woke up, what the 3 witnesses saw was the Christ child in Goldilocks. They were not dismayed as we would see in the story, but in this metaphor, they were actually the 3 witnesses. In the Christmas story, we're told about 3 kings. These 3 bears are symbolic of the 3 kings, or the three witnesses, Peter, James, and John, or faith, love, and hope. What we're seeing in Goldilocks is the birth of a child. And in this child is the promise that each one of us is given. And like I said, every person, man, woman, is Mary awaiting Christ to conceive. With the bear's witness was the birth of a child with a golden crown. This symbolizes royalty. So they were at a place of worshiping, as it were, this Christ child in the midst of them, given homage. Now, that Christ child was in each one of them because, of course, we're dealing with Father, Son, and Spirit being mother. And as we understand the metaphor, what we discover is that this is our story being told. So when you're seeking shelter, know that the shelter you seek is within you. When you begin to imagine the shelter as being so, let's say it's a new home. When you begin to imagine that new home, then you're in the process of bringing about that new home in your reality. But now you can disrupt that new home by praying amiss, by saying, this stuff doesn't work. So, of course, you're disrupting the manifestation of that new home. When you're seeking something to eat, again, we're speaking of salvation. So when you begin to imagine yourself as being satisfied, then your prayer is well on its way. When you begin to seek comfort, that nurturing, when you begin seeking comfort, you'll find that comfort within your very soul, in your mind's eye. Once you begin seeing yourself as being comfortable, then you'll begin to bring about the comfort that you seek. Somebody said this: if you're not happy with the small things in life, if you obtain the bigger things, you're still not going to be happy, because happiness is a state of mind. It's not a residence. It's not having things. Now, of course, we love the comfort of things, so I'm not discounting things, but you have to discover happiness within yourself. As you discover that happiness within yourself, you reproduce more happiness, but you also become a magnet to attract the things that you seek to bring about in your life. Often I'll say that we're energy systems having a human experience. And because of that, whatever energy that we're transmitting, that's what we're also attracting into our lives. So be mindful of your mindsets, because your mindsets, your attitudes, your dispositions are the things that are attracting the things that you desire into your life, or repelling the things that you desire from your life. We talked about the scorner earlier. That person says, this stuff doesn't work. It sounds like a bunch of hoopla. Arthur Schopenhauer said this, that truth passes through 3 stages. First, it passes through the stage of ridicule. Secondly, it's violently opposed. Third, it's accepted as self-evident. Many of the things that we enjoy in life today, they went through these stages. Now, everybody knows that something as simple as a cell phone, and everybody has access to, is a matter of fact now. And it's self-evidence. We just know that. Man traveling in space is self-evidence. Man doing heart surgery, brain surgery, and curing all types of diseases today is self-evidence. The Earth or the planets going around the sun is self-evidence. But many of these things early in our history, people died for these belief systems. Today, you see them as self-evident. If you want to be more abundant, if you want better health, if you want a loving relationship, you have to go through the stages of people ridiculing you. Some people, family members, even violently opposing you. But when you get on the other side of your decision, your success will be self-evident. You have to continue with these things, your thoughts, your words, your actions, your attitudes, until they're manifested into your reality. We're told that as Goldilocks went to sleep, that God speaks to us through visions and dreams. And like I said, in your vision, in your dream, is the birth of the child, or the desire of the thing that you seek to manifest. Mr. Linder will often say, and I've heard Neville also say it, when I'm in the dream, this so-called reality is the dream. But when I'm in this so-called reality, the dream becomes the dream. Everything in your life is the byproduct of your thoughts, your words, your attitudes, your feelings, your states, your emotions. And if you desire to change those things, creator, you must begin with your thinking. As you begin to change the pattern of your thinking and you persevere, what you'll discover is that your world will also change. Now, just because this doesn't seemingly happen overnight, don't get discouraged because you, like Goldilocks, can manifest your desired outcome, whatever that thing is that you desire. But understand also in Goldilocks is the birth of your child. So within you, that desire, within that desire is the seed of its fulfillment. So God doesn't place a desire in us that we're not capable of manifesting in our lives. And I will often say this, that not everybody desires to be a world leader, the president or the king or the ruler of a nation. But for those who have the seed within them, they also have the ability to accomplish that. So if it's abundance that you desire, that tells me that you have within you the seed of abundance in you. If it's better health, then that tells me that you have the seed of better health within you. If it's a loving relationship, that tells me that you have within you the seed of a loving relationship within you. But remember this, creators, only you can create your perfect world, not God or man. Only you can create your perfect world. This is Coach DeCarlo saying have a great and abundant day.